Since pretty much the beginning of the existence of video games, there have also been licensed games. These are games that are based off of various media like TV shows, movies, or books. A lot of times they're aimed at kids, and the games themselves are fairly low quality. Not all of them are necessarily terrible though. Sometimes it can actually be interesting or fun if it has a passionate team behind it or a bigger budget or longer deadline. Monster High is absolutely no stranger to this. There are 4 officially released Monster High console games. Not only that, but there's a whole bunch of Flash games that used to be on monsterhigh.com as well. When I was younger, I wasn't interested in Monster High because I liked Barbies and Disney princesses instead, which is perfectly fine, but now that I'm an adult, I love Monster High and I've loved collecting the dolls and watching the movies, and so I decided I'd like to give the games a try as well. Today I'll be playing every game that I can get my hands on, but only officially released games. Despite Monster High G3 being out for some time now, it currently doesn't have any official games. Alright, well, I don't want to waste much time in this intro because we have a lot of games to get through, so let's get started. Luckily, even though Flash is no longer supported, there are several archives of Flash games available. The one I will mainly be using today is a free program called Flashpoint. This entire section of the video wouldn't even be possible without it. The other sources I used were flashmuseum.org and numuki.com. There are a few dress-up or make-your-own printables games that I couldn't find archived, but luckily, those aren't too interesting anyways. The first game is called Monster Freakout. It's pretty much just a basic matching game. There's a 3x3 board, and you can place any card in your hand in any spot to create matches. There's wild cards which can match with any other card, and random cards which become any random card when placed. If you make multiple matches in a row, you get bonus points. You can also use the Mix It Up lever to shuffle up the board, but it costs points every time you use it, and you can only use it up to 3 times per game. The game ends either when you clear the board, or when you run out of moves you can make. The goal of the game is to clear the board with the highest score you can get. The next game is Froggy Dash. Froggy Dash is literally just Frogger. That's all it is. You have to hop forward, backward, left, or right to get across to the toilets. Yeah, I don't know either. You can collect golden flies or frogs for extra points. The goal is to basically complete all the levels by getting all the frogs across with a high score, and the difficulty increases each time. In Pom Pom Panic, you play as Frankie, who has decided to join the Fear-Leading Squad. This game is a rhythm game, and to play you have to press the arrow keys that are shown on the 3rd beat when the circle lights up. We start out with Frankie in tryouts. I kept messing up at first because I didn't understand how it works, so she isn't very happy with me. After Frankie makes it onto the team, we have to help her out again in practice. The gameplay is the same this time as well. Now it's time for the real thing. We're performing at a halftime show. This time, there's a new mechanic called Fear Power, and basically all it is that if you do well without making mistakes, Frankie does an extra move. Next up is Claudine's Cram Fest. In this game, you have to pass notes from desk to desk to get them to Claudine. You can only pass notes to a desk that is the same color or has the same color backpack next to it. If you pass the notes to any of the main characters like Draculaura or Frankie, you get bonus points. You cannot pass the notes to students who are studying. You also have to watch out for Mr. Verity, because he can catch you and you will get a game over. Luckily, there are also power-ups to help us. Count Fabulous carries the notes to a random desk. Frankie's hand does the same thing as far as I can tell, and Deuce's glasses freeze Mr. Verity for a few seconds. For every one of Claudine's friends that you pass the notes to, they write a message on it that you get to see if you're able to beat the game. Honestly, I wasn't very good at this game, and I don't know why. I think there was just too much going on in the screen at once, and I kept getting confused. The end goal is just to get as many points as you can. In Casketball Queen, you play as Cleo, who is apparently crazy good at basketball. She has to substitute for Deuce, who is injured. You play by mashing the left and right arrow keys to make her run, then press the space bar while this meter is on green, and then you collect as many stars as you can to get points while she's flying in the air. Then she does some crazy move. You do this 3 times in a row, and that's the entire game. There's not much to it, but something about it is just so ridiculous and funny to me, and I honestly kinda liked it. Ghoul Juice is a pinball game where you try to get a high score, and when you finish the game, Ghoulia gives you an actual recipe for a drink. There are actually videos on YouTube of people making this recipe. I don't know that I'd try it though. In Freaky Footwork, you get to choose between either Claudine, Laguna, or Frankie to pull off combos with a soccer ball to try to get rid of all the items in the sky. Each character has a different combo that you can perform. Honestly, you can kinda just spam the combo and finish the level easily. It never ended, so I guess you just try to see how high of a score you can get as the levels keep going. Scary Sun is basically Dig Dug. You have to dig paths as Draculaura through the sand and defeat all of the enemies. And you click the spacebar to send Count Fabulous to kill them. And the levels just keep going and getting more difficult. Pyramid is Monster High themed Cubert. I actually like this one. Sorry if the footage isn't the greatest though, I had to play this one on a Flash game website, so it's kind of horrible. In this game, the goal is to hop on every tile to change its color to pink. There are various obstacles that can appear on the pyramid, which send you back to the start, as well as Hisset, who changes the color of the tiles, and Deuce can also show up, which if you land on the same tile as him, you get bonus points. There are 5 levels and 3 different difficulties, and the amount of times you have to step on a tile increases with the difficulty. In Creepateria Food Fright, the goal is to score points by hitting everyone with food. If you hit Headmistress Bloodgood or Mr. Luzar with food, you lose points, and if Mr. Hack shows up and you hit him, you get a boost that lets you rapid fire. Food can also be thrown at you, of course, so you have to bring up your tray to block just before you get hit. Skulltastic Survival is a compilation of a few different mini-games. There are 5 different games that are randomized in what order you play them. First game is Beaker Tweaker, which requires you to swap between 4 beakers and either heat or cool them to keep the meter on the green line so they don't break. The second game is Chomp Change, in which you have to click on coins with the tail side up to collect them. If you click one that's heads up, you'll be stunned for a few seconds. You have to collect a certain amount of money to win. The third game is Feed the Foliage, and in this game you have to feed plants to keep them happy, but you can't overfeed them, and if you don't keep them fed, they start to cry. The fourth game is Piranha Scooper. In this game, you have to blow bubbles to catch piranhas by clicking and holding to blow the bubble, then letting go over the piranha. In the fifth and final game, called Zombie Dodgeball, you get to play Angry Birds, except you knock over your fellow zombie students with a dodgeball. You pick the angle for the ball and then the power, and you have to knock over the amount that it tells you. The next Flash game is also a compilation of games, called the Creeptastic Catacomb Adventures. All of these games are platformers, but each features a different character and some slightly different mechanics. In Scary Sweet Memories, you play as Claude trying to retrieve the presents that he was going to give Draculaura for her Sweet 1600 that were stolen by Toralei. It is themed around the movie Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love? Claude's gameplay is the most basic of the 4 games. You just have to avoid traps and enemies. You beat this game by making it to the end of 3 levels and collecting the item at the end. The next one is Fantastic Rescue, where you play as Laguna, and she has to retrieve her friend's luggage that was stolen by a kraken on the way to the Great Scarier Reef. It is themed around the movie Escape from Skull Shores. As Laguna, you swim through water and you collect the luggage at the end of each level. In the third game, Phantom Roller, you play as Operetta, who is training to help win the Skultimate Roller Derby. It's themed around the movie Friday Night Frights. Operetta's gameplay utilizes roller skates, making it a bit slippery. She also gets springs that she can roll onto to bounce her into the air. Kinda feels like playing a Sonic game, to be honest. In Trick or Trance, you have to guide Frankie through the catacombs to escape from being chased by normies on Halloween, and lure them to the party being held in the Hall of Halloween. This game's themed around the movie Ghouls Rule. Frankie's gimmick is that she can utilize these portals to move around or even upside down. Each of these games is beaten after 3 levels. In Driver's Dread, you play as Draculaura taking her Driver's Dread exam. In this game, you use the arrow keys to drive the car and avoid obstacles to get to the designated parking spot. You can also collect the fuzzy dice to earn bonus points. The next game is called Who's That Ghoul? This game is a simple tile puzzle game that uses screenshots from the Frights camera action movie. There's 2 difficulties, but both of them are very easy. The next game is called Secret Creepers Adventures. This game is a point-and-click adventure game where you play as the ghouls as pets, trying to find some of their lost items. The different pets you can play as are Count Fabulous, Watsit, Sir Hoots-a-Lot, and Shiver. The puzzles in the games are very easy and don't take very long. Each pet's puzzles are very similar to each other's. You click around to find clues and items to find more clues to find the item at the end. The final Flash game is called Great Scarier Swim. To me, this one feels like a worse version of the Creeptastic Catacombs Adventures, except it also includes a rhythm minigame after each level. This game was made to promote the Great Scary Reef movie, and you can definitely tell. After each level, it shows you just a photo of one of the dolls from the line, and at the very end of the game, you get a screen that literally says "Add" on it, and there's a Shop for Dolls button. Real subtle. Also, the graphics are also just kind of horrifying. Frankie and Laguna are just constantly staring at you the whole time, and all the life got sucked out of the art style. So yeah, that's it for that game. And that's all for Flash games. Like I mentioned earlier, there were a few that I was unable to play because they weren't really archived. I assume this has something to do with how they were integrated into your account or the website maybe, since they were often things that you could save or print out. That's just my guess though. Overall, I enjoyed playing these games, except for a few. Even though none of them were anything super special or groundbreaking, it was still fun to experience. As a bonus, I also played the only official mobile game still available on the App Store. The game is called Monster High Beauty Salon. This game is actually the most horrible dress-up game I've ever played. You get close to 0 options for hair, makeup, or clothes, and you only get 2 characters to choose from. And there's ads every like 10 seconds. That's all I have to say about this game, honestly. Now we're getting to the real interesting stuff. the console games. These are the ones I was referring to in the beginning, the true licensed game experience. For all of these games, I will be playing the Wii version, but they were released on other consoles as well, such as the DS, 3DS, Xbox 360, and PS3. I played all of the games to completion, but I did not 100% them, as in getting every single item and whatnot, because that would take forever and be incredibly frustrating. But I did complete the story and see as much of the games as I could. I also emulated the games for the sake of being able to record them on my computer. Okay, let's get started now. The first game I will be playing is called Ghoul Spirit, which was released in 2011. In this game, you get to play as a new student attending Monster High. You get to customize and name your own ghoul, although the customization options are extremely limited and there are only a few outfits and hairstyles. You can choose between being a mashup monster, a gorgon, a mummy, a vampire, a werewolf, or a zombie. For my playthrough, I decided to be a werewolf. When you first begin the game, you grab your student ID from this machine and are told by Headmistress Bloodgood to speak with Draculaura. We also learn that our choices matter apparently because we have the school meter that goes up whenever we're nice to someone. We need our meter to be full so that we can become Scream Queen of the Terror Under the Sea dance at the end of the game. So I go to talk to Draculaura and the models in this game are really questionable to say the least. But anyway, she gives you her pet Count Fabulous, who will now be flying above your head. He is there to guide you through the school, which is great because honestly I probably would have had way more frustrating of a time than I already did if I had to find my way around myself. So the next thing we have to do is go find our locker. And in your locker you can change your outfit, see your report card, and you also have extra locker storage if you run out of space in your inventory, which in my experience rarely happens. If you close your locker, you get a text from Claudine saying that she's having a fashion emergency, and you have to go meet her in the ghoul's bathroom. When you speak to her, she asks you to go speak to Draculaura in the Belfry because she'll know what to do. This is our first quest of many. Traveling around in this game is annoying because you walk so slowly. Headmistress Bloodgood also makes these random announcements what feels like every 2 seconds, which is super annoying.
A powerful lightning storm heading to the region.
And there's clacking footsteps every time you take even a single step. Anyway, I head to the Belfry and talk to Draculaura, and then she tells me to take Claudine's shoes to Laguna at the pool. I have no idea how we even got her shoes, and what is Laguna gonna do? But okay. Oh, we got a text from Laguna asking to get her swim cap from her locker. Okay, simple enough. So we bring it to her, and then she tells us to bring her spare shoes to Claudine and... yeah, it just keeps going like this. Almost the entire game is made up of fetch quests. One character wants something, so you go get it from another, and then they want something, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. Alright, well, let's just quickly go through the rest of Claudine's story. We get a text from Frankie telling us to go to the Vampatheater because she has a plan to help Claudine. Once we get there, we do a sound check minigame for Mr. Ware for some reason. Then we have to go meet Claudine in the bathroom again. Okay, literally what was the point of that just now? So now we meet Claudine again, and she tells us to bring some sushi to Laguna because she forgot to eat. Girl, what does this have to do with you or your clothes anymore? And did I mention the lengthy loading screens anytime you go into a different room? Once we deliver the sushi to Laguna, we go back to Claudine, and she finally thanks us for the spare shoes. And then she asks us to go to talk to Heath, and we have him help us create a distraction so Mr. Ware will leave the Vampatheater. So we go back and grab new pants for Claudine, which then prompts Toralei to text us and ask us to come to the gym, who then tells us to make a hair taming serum for Claudine. Surely this can't go wrong. So we go to the Mad Science Lab, make the potion, tell Toralei about it, who tells us to give it to Laguna, who will then give it to Claudine. But now we have to go to Draculaura and give her Claude's phone number, and then she gives us a new top for Claudine. So we go find her again and find out the serum didn't work, of course. So we play a haircutting minigame, and finally, that completes Claudine's episode. Each of the main characters has their own story like this, and at the end they get a new outfit. They have some small minigames sprinkled in here and there, but they're usually extremely short and easy. I think the stories wouldn't be so bad if they were at least interesting or funny, but there's nothing engaging whatsoever. Now, remember how I mentioned the report card earlier? Yeah, you have to go to class in this game too. There are 5 different classes you can attend. Colloculus, Physical Education, Home Ec, Drama, and Mad Science. Each one has its own very boring, repetitive minigame. In Clockulus, you have to watch these students run around and keep track of how many stay in the rooms and then type in the number. In Physical Education, you hit targets with a ball. In Home Ec, you shake the Wiimote around a cook. Yeah, not even an actual cooking minigame, unfortunately. In Drama Class, you put together picture puzzles. And in Mad Science, you put ingredients in the pot and then shake the Wiimote. You have to do 3 rounds of each minigame 5 different times, so it's very tedious if you do it all at once like I did, so I do not recommend that. And if you thought that's all this game had to offer, you'd be wrong. There's 2 more, well, technically 3 more stories, but I'll get to the third one in a minute. The first is the Freaky Flaw episode, given to you by whatever character is the same monster type as you after you finish their episode. Since I chose a werewolf, I got the mission from Claudine. The task you have to complete is related to the type of monster that you choose, so I had to make gloves because werewolves' nails grow long during a full moon and apparently gloves will help with that somehow. Wouldn't they not be able to fit? Well, anyway, I make my way to Home Ec class and use the sewing machine to make my gloves. And that's it for the Freaky Flaw mission. There's also a mission called Student Body, where we have to investigate a noise coming from the music room. So we go inside and find Operetta, who's practicing guitar, and she asks us to bring a note to Headmistress Bloodgood requesting to keep practicing. And once we bring it to her, she's just kind of like, yeah, that's awesome. And then that's the end of the episode. Alright, now time for that final mission. We've completed everyone else's missions in our classes, so now it's time to do our own episode, the player episode. This is again a series of fetch quests where you help make preparations for the dance, such as preparing the music, lights, and snacks before heading to the gym to meet with Ghoulia to finish preparations. She tells you that there's one more ghoul who you need to help out. Yourself! She thanks you for helping everyone and tells you to go to your locker and get ready for the dance. Now, at this point, once you click on your locker, the dance will begin and the game will end. But that's okay. We did everything we could to make everyone happy, finished every mission. We should be good to win the title of Scream Queen. So, up to my locker I go. Yeah, Cleo wins. After all that, we don't even get to win. In fact, in the Wii version, there is apparently no way to completely fill up your ghoul meter and win. And for some reason, you can only do so in the DS version of the game. What's even worse is I had to play this entire game twice because the first time none of my footage recorded properly. Yeah, I had to do about 4 to 5 hours of fetch quests twice in a row. Overall, this game is just alright. Obviously, I'm not the target demographic, but there's just nothing quite that interesting about it. The character's dialogue is lacking, and there's basically no personality in the writing. There's little to no story and no gameplay variety besides the occasional minigame. This is a game I probably would have enjoyed more if I was younger, and was just excited because I would get to see a bunch of my favorite Monster High characters. The next game I will be playing is called Skultimate Roller Maze, released in 2012. This game is a racing game. The twist is that instead of choosing one character to play as, you choose 3 and have to swap between them during a race. The characters each have a different weight class and ability that they can use. The 3 different weights are light, medium, and strong. Light characters are slower but can make sharp turns more easily. Medium characters are slightly faster but can't make sharp turns as well. And strong characters are the fastest but are pretty bad with turning corners. As I said before, each character has an ability, but really there's actually only 3 abilities and they just get reskinned for each character. You get to use the abilities by collecting coins that are scattered throughout the race to fill this meter in the corner, or by getting an item that fills up some of the meter. There's other items you can get too by picking up these coffins that are on the track which give you a random item. They do things like give you a speed boost or give you projectiles to knock over other racers. The first type of ability is firing a homing projectile that locks onto the character in front of you. The second type of ability is a speed boost with some extra invincibility. And the third type, well honestly, I can't figure out what it does. The character just kind of spins around. You don't even speed up after it, so I have no idea. The characters available in the game are Frankie, Claudine, Draculora, Laguna, Rochelle, Rebecca, Operetta, Claude, Abby, Gil, Deuce, and Heath. Several of the characters have to be unlocked by playing the 2 main game modes and getting first place on each difficulty. The game modes are Race, where you literally just race like you would expect through multiple races, Relay, in which you play a different character for each lap, Quick Race, where you play just one race instead of multiple in a row, and Timed, where you try to finish a race as quickly as possible. The 3 difficulties are Spooky, Creeperific, and Scarifying. To unlock the characters, like I said, you have to beat all 3 difficulties on both Race and Relay modes. This can get a bit tedious though, because the way it works is that on Spooky difficulty, you play 4 races, Creeperific is 5, and Scarifying is 6, all in a row. And honestly, that's about it for this game. It's a racing game with quite little variety, but I did have fun playing this game. And I wish I could have played the multiplayer mode with someone because the CPU players are pushovers, even on the hardest difficulty. The controls for this game were surprisingly not that bad either. I used the Wii nunchuck controls rather than the motion controls though. I have no idea how those would be. So yeah, I think that's just about it for Skultimate Roller Maze. Next up is 13 Wishes. Released in, I'm pretty sure, 2013, but it's kind of hard to find an actual answer online anywhere. It's based on the movie with the same name. In fact, the game opens to a cutscene comprised of scenes from the movie with Frankie narrating, and it literally shows you nearly everything that happens in the movie, with a few discrepancies so that the game is able to take place within the plot. I'll quickly explain the plot in case you haven't seen the movie. Claudine's little sister Howleen finds a magic lantern hidden in the attic at Monster High and meets the genie named Gigi that was trapped inside. But releasing her also released the shadow genie called Wisp. Howleen gets 13 wishes, but Wisp begins to manipulate her to use her wishes to help Wisp gain power so that she can take over Monster High. Frankie and the other main ghouls are sent inside of the magic lantern so that they can retrieve pieces of a magic mirror that they can use to defeat Wisp. They find 12 pieces of the mirror and return to Monster High to retrieve the 13th piece from Wisp. In the movie, they succeed and Wisp is defeated, but in the game, Wisp succeeds in making Howleen wish to give her full power. Everyone gets sent back into the lantern and the mirror pieces get rescattered. So our job in the game is to recollect them. When the cutscene ends, we see Frankie falling out of a locker, and she remembers what happened after seeing the orb that Gigi gave her, so that she and her friends could come back out of the lantern. Once we gain control of Frankie, we have to find our way to the pool. Honestly, it was kind of confusing to find because the game doesn't actually give you any directions, but once you do find the pool, you have to climb upstairs around this tower, and once you make it up to the top, you're met with a portal. Interacting with the portal brings us to the level select menu. At the bottom, it shows the level's objectives, which consist of getting various collectibles, or completing challenges such as beating the level under a certain amount of time. When we enter the first level, the Desert Oasis, we are greeted by Gigi, who explains that unless we can stop Wisp, everyone at Monster High will be trapped in darkness forever. She also explains that Frankie's friends are trapped in the lantern with Gigi, and the reason why Frankie wasn't was because Gigi's orb protects her against Wisp. Now Gigi basically just gives us a tutorial on how to play the game. The game is a sort of 3D adventure platformer. One of the main gimmicks of the game is that each character has their own unique ability. The first one we get to see is Frankie's, which allows her to detach her hand to search through small areas. The purpose of each character's ability is usually to get a collectible or to make it to another area of the level. Once we walk around for a bit, we finish the tutorial and reach near the end of the level. We find Laguna and see that something is a bit off about her. And no, I'm not talking about her model. She's been brainwashed and thinks that the enemies are her friend. But Frankie rescues her by, doing a thing? I guess she's just using magic. And with that, we have now unlocked Laguna as a playable character. Her ability is that she can swim to reach different areas. So as Laguna, you swim across to this small island, collect the mirror piece, and go on to the next level. This is pretty much the main gameplay loop. Use the character you get from a previous level to complete the next level, do some platforming and puzzles, and unlock the next character. In level 2, the pyramids, we come across Cleo, who has also been brainwashed. She asks Laguna if she knows her name, which Laguna answers no because Cleo's hidden, and Cleo asks the monsters to dispose of Laguna. But then Laguna uses magic to free Cleo, and now we've unlocked Cleo as a playable character. Cleo's ability is that she can literally teleport. It's not even related to the pyramids, she can just straight up teleport. So after teleporting up to the pyramids, solving some puzzles, and collecting the mirror piece, we have completed level 2. Level 3 is the ruins. In this level, we find Abby, who tells Cleo that she needs a secret password to enter the palace up ahead. Cleo kind of starts indirectly insulting Abby for some reason. Then she uses magic to make Abby remember what's happening. Abby's ability allows her to make bridges out of ice. Using her ability, we cross the gap and collect the mirror piece. The next thing we have to do is actually our first boss fight. Our opponent this time is a giant beetle. All we have to do is use Cleo's ability to teleport around the 3 platforms and make sure we aren't on the same one as the beetle when it's about to attack. Then once it's down, you go to it and attack it. Rinse and repeat until it's defeated. I don't know why, but this fight was so funny. The animations and everything are just so bad. Anyway though, after we defeat the boss, we collect the mirror piece, and that's all for this area. When we return to Monster High, instead of interacting with the portal again, this time we have to go find the library portal. To be able to enter the door to the library hallway, you have to have completed at least 13 level objectives from the previous levels. The first level in the library is the dressing room. In this level, we find Claudine. She asks Abby what she thinks about the outfit the shadow creatures gave her, and she misinterprets Abby's compliment and tries to attack her. Abby uses magic on her to make her remember once again, and now we've unlocked Claudine. Claudine's ability lets her use her sense of smell to sniff out hidden objects, which actually just makes entire platforms appear basically. Once again, we complete the level and collect a mirror piece. The next level is the candle room. Here we find Draculaura, who insists that Claudine should let the shadow creatures do her makeup like they did Draculaura's. Claudine says it makes her look evil and Draculaura gets upset, so Claudine uses magic to free Draculaura from her trance. As a playable character, Draculaura is able to see hidden things that others can't because she's like a bat. This is almost the same as Claudine's because she just makes things materialize out of nowhere. We pick up the mirror piece and the level ends. The next level is the throne room. There's no character for us to save in this level. Instead, after we pick up the mirror piece, Wisp appears to taunt the ghouls and then drops them into a portal, and the level ends there. The next thing we must do is another boss fight. The ghouls get dropped straight into the arena where we have to fight against a giant shadow monster. The way the fight works is that the boss fires projectiles at you that you must attack. Then it goes into the ground and summons fakes around you, but the real one is the one that has no shadow. You attack it, and then the cycle repeats until the fight is over, and you can collect 3 mirror pieces this time. Now, back at Monster High, we have to go to the final area, the attic where Howleen first found the magic lantern. To enter the attic, you have to have completed at least 31 objectives. Once we interact with the portal in the attic, we are met with the final level, the maze. Not much happens in this level. It's quite expansive with some annoying platforming, but other than that, all we have to do is get the mirror piece. Now, for the very last task, defeat Wisp, the final boss. It opens with the ghouls finding Howleen trapped, when Wisp appears and asks them what good it will do to save their friends. Frankie says she wouldn't be asking if she knew what it meant to be a friend. To which Wisp replies that she had a friend once who turned her back on her, and now she knows what it's like to be powerless. Frankie tells Wisp that she cannot handle the responsibility of becoming a genie, and promises that she can be the first one to use the mirror if Wisp gives her the last mirror piece, unless she's too scared to see her true self. Wisp declines and the final battle begins. In this fight, you wait for Wisp to fire a projectile at you, and then you attack it to send it flying back at her. Once we do that a few times, she's defeated, and we free Howleen. Everyone believes it's all over, and they head for the exit. However, Wisp reappears and re-shatters the mirror. We then have to pick up all of the pieces while avoiding her attacks. It then plays another movie cutscene of her taking over the school, and we're brought to the pool to complete the real final battle. All we have to do is place a mirror piece on each of these pillars so they reflect the light at Wisp. Once we've done this, she's been defeated for good. She apologizes and says she somehow thought that having power would make her happy, and she's sorry. Gigi explains to her that having power as a genie gives you a responsibility to help others, and Wisp says that she understands that now, and that she would like to be a genie if she had another chance. It's about time for both Gigi and Wisp to return to the lantern, but Howleen uses her final wish to allow Gigi to stay at Monster High, and for Wisp to become the new genie.
The lantern fell into the deep end of the pool. At Monster High, the deep end goes down forever. It will be found again when it wants to be.
And that's it for 13 Wishes. This game wasn't very good. I wouldn't say it was terrible either. I had a decent amount of fun playing it. Though the controls were a little wonky and the level design and visuals are questionable, it's not a horrible experience. If you like the story of the game though, just watching the movie is definitely the better option. Alright, I think it's about time now that we move on to the final game. The last game I will be playing is New Ghoul in School, released in 2015. Out of all the games, this one was my favorite. Its basic premise is very similar to Ghoul Spirit, but it is so much better than that game. You start out by creating your own character. This time, there's a lot more customization options. We can choose between being a werewolf, zombie, cyclops, dragon, gargoyle, Frankenstein, ghost, mummy, sea monster, skeleton, vampire, or werecat. There are also multiple skin tones, hairstyles, and colors and outfits that you can choose from. After we're done creating our character, we start in the Monster High courtyard, where Frankie is waiting to talk to us. She welcomes us to Monster High and gives us a map to help find our way around the school. She then tells us to go talk to Headmistress Bloodgood. In this game, you have a little arrow that points you in the direction you need to go. So I headed up the stairs to see the headmistress. She welcomes us to the campus and tells us she's assigned us a student buddy, that being Spectra. We go to the library to meet with her. She tells us that we should join clubs to meet people and get involved with the school. She mentions that the student council and fear leading team are the most popular clubs. She then introduces us to Draculaura, who talks to us about the fear leading team and encourages us to join. She then calls Laguna over to meet us and talk to us about the student council as well. We agree and become a member right away. She mentions that a meeting is starting in 10 minutes and tells us to come to it. So we head over and enter the room where the meeting is being held. Laguna begins to introduce us to the rest of the council, which consists of Abby, who's the treasurer, Spectra, Katrine, and Toralei, who is the president of the student council. In the meeting, Laguna gets elected as vice president, and we discuss what the first project we complete as the council should be. Nobody shouts out any ideas, so Toralei says we should reconvene the next day. The next thing to do is to go back to the library to speak with Draculaura. She invites us once again to join the fear leading team. We agree to join, and she tells us to come to practice during lunchtime, so we head to class to pass the time until lunch, and then head to the basketball court to attend practice. The fear leading team consists of Frankie, Claudine, Draculaura, and Cleo, who is the team captain. Cleo explains that there's a myth about a legendary fear leading captain who used ancient cosmic fear leading steps and was unbeatable, and there are rumors that the steps are hidden in Monster High. She sends us off to search for the 3 steps and has us solve a riddle to get the clue to where they are. The clue is water, so we head to the pool and collect the 3 steps by doing some parkour. Once we bring them back to Cleo, she says that we'll begin practicing them tomorrow. Now that's it for the main story for the day. The main story takes place within the student council and the fear leading team each day. There are also several clubs that you can attend, including the cooking club, the environmental club, the comic club, the robotics club, and the fashion club. Each club has its own short storyline, but mostly consists of fetch quests. In the cooking club, you and the other members improve the school lunch menu. In the environmental club, Venus grows a large living plant and has to convince everyone that it's safe. In the comic club, you write a comic and save Rochelle dressed as the hero from the comic, and the comic becomes super popular. In the robotics club, you help Rebecca create a sentient robot, and in the fashion club, you hold a fashion show. There are a few other things you can do in the game as well. There are a few collectibles you can find around the school. There's glowing spiders, pennants, and you can find locker codes as well. Opening lockers with the codes gives you either coins, a spider, or a pennant. You can also find coins around the school. The coins are for purchasing clothes from the Mon store on your phone. Now with everything done at school for the day, we can go home to our room. In your room, you can change your clothes at the closet or change your hair at the vanity. There are a few places to do this at school as well, and later in the game you're allowed to change your monster type by talking to Twyla as well. Now let's move on to day 2 and get back into the main story. At the student council meeting in the morning, we decide to ask the students themselves what they think the council should work on. So now we have to go speak to a few different students as our assignment. After that, we head to fear leading practice during lunch, where this time we get to do a mini game where we practice our moves by playing a simple rhythm game. Cleo then gives us another riddle to find more of the steps. The clue is library, so that's where we go to find the steps. On day 3, at the council meeting, we compile a list of the things that the students wanted resolved at the school, such as fixing vending machines, adding TVs in the creepateria, and fixing the scoreboard in the basketball court. We then decide to have a bake sale to raise the funds needed for the projects. We then put flyers up around the school to raise awareness of the bake sale. Then, a fear leading practice, we find out that Cleo's going to be late because today is her birthday. But nobody is too bothered because it happens every year, so we practice like normal. Cleo arrives soon after and shows off an amulet that she got as a gift. Her eyes start to glow purple and she says she feels woozy, so she tells everyone to call it a day. On day 4, we see Cleo talking to Spectra before the student council meeting before running away. During the meeting, Spectra begins acting very strangely. We also discuss how we're going to get cookies for the bake sale, and we mention that we can ask the cooking club for help. So we go speak to Deuce at the cooking club before heading to fear leading practice once again. Cleo is nowhere to be found, but we mention that we saw her talking to Spectra earlier. Cleo then shows up and gets angry at everyone for talking instead of practicing. Claudine confronts Cleo and asks why she was talking to Spectra, and Cleo says that it wasn't true. She then asks to talk to us and asks us to find even more fear leading steps. Once we give them to her, she leaves and tells us to practice without her. On day 5, at the council, Spectra is still acting very strangely. We then have our bake sale. We get to go around selling cookies to students in a short minigame. When we go to give the money to Abby, Spectra is there and tries to get the money from us and starts saying some weird stuff. Of course we decline, and Abby says that she's sorry we had to deal with that. At fear leading practice, Frankie asks Cleo if she's feeling okay, and Cleo's confused by what she means and says they should begin practicing. After practicing, the fire alarm begins to ring, so everyone starts to run. Eventually Frankie realizes that Cleo isn't with them anymore and says they have to find her. Eventually we find Spectra next to the fire alarm, and she appears distressed and confused and runs away. We return to the basketball court and Cleo says she hasn't moved from where she's standing, and she tells everyone to stop practice early. On day 6 we find out that the council's bake sale was a huge success, and we're able to upgrade many of the school's amenities. Toralei asks us to deliver the money to the headmistress and Spectra begs to do it, but Abby tells her off. Spectra snaps out of her trance again and feels embarrassed. When we go to deliver the money to Headmistress Bloodgood, she asks how our first week at Monster High was, but she also seems to be acting weirdly and mentioning pyramids and whatnot. At fear leading practice, we are greeted by Cleo being rude and yelling at us, then realizing her amulet is missing. Ghoulia shows up to return it to her, but Cleo is super mean to Ghoulia and makes her run away. Frankie and the others get angry at Cleo and she snaps out of the spell and says she doesn't remember what happened. Claudine asks us to go look for Ghoulia. When we find her, we discuss how Cleo has been acting strangely since she got the amulet for her birthday, so Ghoulia decides to do research on it. On day 7, the creepateria has been revamped as well as the vending machines, and the students are extremely happy. But we still need to raise money for more projects, so we decide to have another bake sale. We put up more flyers and then head to fear leading practice. We decide to talk about what we discussed with Ghoulia a different time when Cleo won't be around. We do our practice like normal and decide that we need to confront Cleo tomorrow. On day 8, we have to ask Deuce and the cooking club to help with the bake sale again. At fear leading practice, once Cleo shows up, everyone confronts her about her recent behavior. She gets angry and we kick her off the fear leading team, which makes her curse the entire school. We decide to keep an eye out to see if we can figure out what's going on with her. On day 9, Katrine is also acting weird just like Spectra. We have another bake sale just like before. Katrine tries to get the money from us like Spectra did before, but we don't let her. At fear leading practice, Draculaura and Claudine are nowhere to be found, so we practice with just Frankie there with us. Afterwards, Cleo appears with Draculaura and Claudine by her side, and they've been brainwashed now too. We run away with Frankie and she tells us to meet her tomorrow before practice begins. On day 10, we see Cleo talking to Toralei this time, and after Cleo leaves, Toralei starts to feel sick and so the meeting is cancelled for the day. When we meet up with Frankie outside of the gym, we decide to go in together. We then see Cleo coaching Katrine and Spectra along with Claudine and Draculaura. Cleo kicks us off the fear leading team and warns us to never return. We then go talk to Ghoulia, who has now found information about Cleo's amulet from a book. She tells us to meet with her tomorrow afternoon in the library. On day 11, brainwashed Toralei, Katrine, and Spectra want to use the money we raised for personal things rather than fixing the school. Next, we go meet Ghoulia and Frankie in the library. Ghoulia is unable to find the book she mentioned before. After some searching, we find the book, but the relevant pages have been removed. Frankie finds one of the missing pages, and we have to find the rest of them. After collecting the pages, we learn about King Spookencommon, who was the headmaster of Pharaoh High, where Egypt's monsters attended. He yearned to rule the world and began possessing his students to utilize their powers and started to create an army. A young headmistress Bloodgood put an end to his plan by reporting him to the monster school administrators, and he was banished into an amulet. This is the amulet that Cleo now has. We decide to warn Headmistress Bloodgood tomorrow during lunchtime. Ghoulia tells us that we likely only have a week before the curse completely takes over the school. On day 12, when we enter the student council room, Laguna seems really worried. When we start the meeting, we see that now Abby has been cursed too. You and Laguna then get kicked off of the student council. Laguna then asks us to meet her at the pool tomorrow. Next we meet Frankie and Ghoulia once again to talk to Bloodgood, but she's already been cursed too. She tries to infect us as well, but we make a dramatic escape through the window down to the first floor. Ghoulia says she's going to find a way to reverse the effects of the curse, and Frankie's going to spy on the fear leaders. On day 13, we talk to Laguna at the pool, and Caddy Noir is also there. We inform them both about what we learned from Ghoulia about Spook in common. We decide to gather as many allies as we can that haven't been cursed. At lunchtime, we have to sneak into the Basketball court to save Frankie. Once we reach her, to make our escape, we pull the fire alarm so that everyone leaves the gym. We tell Frankie that Laguna and Caddy are safe and that we're going to meet at the library after school. In the meeting, we decide to spend a day looking for information so that we can come up with a plan to defeat Spook in common. Laguna suggests that we should spy on the student council meeting tomorrow for information. So on day 14, that's exactly what we do. We find out that the Cursed Student Council is holding a Spook in Common rally so that he can speak through Toralei to the cursed students. We decide to infiltrate the rally to find out Spook in Common's master plan. At the rally, we discover that they're going to hold a mass cursing at the fear-leading Monster Nationals. We once again have our meeting in the library after school and relay the information we gather to everyone, and we find out that we can break the amulet to free everyone from the curse. On day 15, we have another meeting, where we come up with a plan. We're going to distract the cursed students with a fear-leading routine. Then Deuce and Claude will get the amulet from Cleo, and we'll destroy it and free all of the cursed students. We spend all the rest of the day practicing our fear-leading steps. However, Frankie remembered that to enter the fear-leading nationals, we have to pay an entrance fee, but we realize that we can use the money that we raised in the student council to pay for it. Now, we have to sneak into the student council room and get the money. On the 16th and final day, we practice some more, before heading to the competition, and it's finally time for us to perform. After the performance, Deuce and Claude snatch up the amulet from Cleo, and we break it, freeing everyone from the curse. And that's the end of New Ghoul in School. I honestly had a lot of fun playing this game. I like the music, the models and environment look decent, I like the customization, the game is fully voice acted, and it actually has a story and enough interesting gameplay so that it doesn't get boring. If you want to play any of the games I showed in this video, I would definitely recommend this one. So that's finally it. This video ended up being quite a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but I had a lot of fun playing the games and making the video, and I hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you so very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again in the future.